I am a horrible businessman, terrible businessman. But I had to pay my rent, so I better get this improving. I have to get over. So uh, uh, I remember one of my first gigs here also was in a place called the Home Restaurant, and the salary was $5 and a hamburger. So in that place, the Home Restaurant, we have to play two sets, fantastic orchestra, you know. Mitch Froman was a conductor. Mitch Froman, John Faris, Claudio Roditi, Bobby Porcelli, incredible band. Andy Gonzalez, Jerry Gonzalez, fantastic group. And then in the intermission, we were supposed to have our dinner. And then can I have a cheeseburger? I said, no. The contract say $5 and a hamburger. If you want a cheeseburger, that's $1 less from mine. So when I get out of there, I was really thinking about going back to Cuba and say, perdóname, Fidel, I am sorry, I am back here. But well, what I want to tell you is that we have to know when to say no. Sometimes we go to jam session and we play for free, you know. So there is nothing that can pay with money. The pleasure of playing music with other fellows. But we have to know the difference. I remember this other guy who stopped me in the middle of Berger Line, you know, Berger Line Avenue in New Jersey. All the Cubans that live around there. I said, oh, but there is a group of Cubans here, and they want you to come and play a little bit for us. I said, okay, they don't have too much money. So he mentioned a number. It was a very crazy number, something like $50 or something. I said, wow, man. He said, no, but don't worry. It's only $50, but at least you only have to play like 10 minutes. I say, shit, man, you are not going to pay me and you're not going to let me play either? So what I mean with this is that it is, as he said, it is a business. But you have to, it is a fine line. You have to know when to say no. So when you have to say no, please just say no.
I came to New York as a jazz musician, but my thought always kept one thought in mind, and that was the jazz was my dessert, but I wasn't going to make it the whole meal. If I couldn't make it as a jazz player, I wanted to, I would like to, but fortunately, I had a chance to do a lot of other things. So I was just open. I was going to play jazz. Whatever I play with, you're going to get some jazz in it. I don't care what it is. So it didn't make any difference because that was my upbringing, was jazz. So if I had a chance to do a club date, they got some jazz because that's what I'm about. And it was, again, jazz was the dessert, but I never thought about saying I'm going to make it the whole meal. I want you young people to think you guys are coming out of school or doing different things. Be open. I can swing on anybody. I don't care what it is. You know, I've always felt I laugh because I had a saying. I would go to a club date and I would play. And my thing was, I'm going to make this music feel so good that lady over there in the wheelchair is going to get up and dance tonight. That was my prize, to see her wiggle her toes or to see somebody who would not ordinarily be dancing or doing. I enjoyed seeing that. It was like, it was a spiritual situation for me. And that's what it's about. It's about enjoying what you do, giving all you can, but be open to everything. I don't just say jazz. Jazz is just one phase of, you know, the music business. I like all of it. In jazz, I remember doing Jesus Christ Superstar. I went on, I got the gig through the bass player had a religious problem, and he couldn't go. He decided that he didn't want to be there. And I wanted him to get subs to come in and hear the show. And so he said, okay. And all of a sudden, he decided one night, I'm not going in. He called me at about 7 and said, I'm not going in to do the show. And I said, wait a minute, you can't do that. You know, he says, no, I can't make it. I went in and played the show. The young guys who were there taught me how to play rock, and I taught them how to play jazz. We turned the show into a whole different thing. So let's be open, first of all, to wanting to do other things. As musicians, you can do it all. There's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that you should try not to do. I want it all. I wanted it all. I was going to swing on anybody who would call me. That lady in the wheelchair was going to get up and dance tonight. That was a promise that I made to myself, and it made me feel good.
Jazzmeia, you're faced, again, with a different situation, which is you don't have this illustrious history. You don't have these great names that you came up with. You're leading your own group. Nowadays, there's the tendency for players pretty much just say yes to anything so that you can get your music out there. Get it out on YouTube for free, whatever, so that somebody will see it and hear it, maybe book you or sign you up for another recording. Do you say no sometimes?
Absolutely.
And when do you say no?
Well, for me, like you said, these guys have a plethora of history. I'm nowhere near on these guys' level. But
you will.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, thank y'all. But I come from a different background. So immediately when I got to the city, because of the way people think in the hearts of those that live in the south part of America, we have a tendency to love on one another regardless of what is going on. So when I got here, I think it's also a motherly thing. Like, I think it's just because I have a womb that I just have a tendency to look out into the future and say, what can I preserve and save for those that are coming next? It was a little bit different to your stories. I always think about my children and my children's children, even though I only have one child, and I didn't even have kids when I first moved here. But I'm always thinking about, like, how can we push this thing forward? Because musicians in this day, you know, when they had cabaret cards and things like this, they were making this certain amount of money, and it hasn't really changed today. We're making the same thing, even in that same level that we've been on for a while. And so I'm always thinking, like, okay, so this guy, he wants to talk to me this way because I'm a woman. I'm also a black woman, so that makes it 10 times even harder. And then he wants me to play in his club for this amount of money. So if I say no to him, then I am creating a standard. Then I am also raising a bar. But if I say yes, then other musicians won't have an opportunity to play either. Because now there's this thing, well, if he won't play it, then I can get her to play it for $40 in 4 hours, and she'll play it and it'll be cool. But if I say no, and then there's a time where they keep searching and keep searching for someone else, 40 turns into 50, and 50, 60, and 60, 65, 70. Right. And that's like the hope that I have, is that we all know when to say no, and we look out for each other, regardless of race, creed, color, or anything. This is our music, you know. It started out that way, and it's going to end up that way. So we kind of have to start. You know, we have to set a standard, and like they said, we have to know when to say no, because it's imperative for our future. So I say no all the time with no hesitation. No.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that brings to mind the Union adage, a rising tide floats all boats. Mm-hmm. The idea is that if you can get the wages up in one club where you say no, and then they actually do have to pay more to get the act, then you can say, well, you know, across the street we got the money up, you know, to 100. It was at 50. We got it up to 100. So you got to pay 100 too.